Okay. So we are reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 7. I'm starting with text 105. तुम्हार प्रभावे सबार आनंदित मन कभू असंगत न है तुम्हार वचन. Dear sir, by your influence our minds are greatly satisfied and we believe that your words will never be unreasonable. Therefore, you may speak on the Vedanta Sutra. So who's talking here?
Is Prabodhanand Saraswati, Prabhuji?
Prakashana.
Prakashana, sorry,
Yes.
Prakashana Saraswati.
So he's addressing Lord Chaitanya that by your influence our minds are greatly satisfied. And we'll talk about what kind of influence that is. And then he's saying, we believe that your words will never be unreasonable. Therefore, you may speak on the Vedanta Sutra. So this is great compliment from people who didn't like Lord
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before.
and did not agree with his methods. So what a transformation has already happened, and we'll discuss that in great detail now. So who would like to read the purport?
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Of course.
Purport. In this verse, the words Tomar Prabhave, your influence, are very important. Unless one is spiritually advanced, he cannot influence an audience. Bhakti Vinod Thakra has sung Sudha Bhakta Charan Renu, Bhajan Ankula. Unless one associates with pure devotee, he cannot be influenced to understand devotional service. These Mayavadis, sannyasis, were fortunate enough to meet the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of a devotee, and certainly they were greatly influenced by the Lord. They knew that since a perfectly advanced spiritualist never says anything false, all his words are reasonable and agree with the Vedic version. A highly realized person never says anything that has no meaning. Mayavadi philosophers claim to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this has no meaning. But Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never uttered such nonsense. Sorry, Prabhuji, my iPad has gone, so rest someone can read.
Okay, there's only one line left. But Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never uttered such nonsense. The Mayavadi sannyasis were convinced about his personality, and therefore they wanted to hear the purport of the philosophy from him. So this is a really very important verse. First of all, the Mayavadi sannyasis are eager to hear the commentary of a pure devotee on Vedanta Sutra. Generally speaking, they're very adamant that theirs is the only interpretation. There's no other interpretation, they're not interested. But here they've been influenced and impressed by Lord Chaitanya enough to actually ask for this. And that is the influence that they're talking about. By your influence. So influence of a pure devotee. And the point is that the words of a person are only a vehicle for the message. So whatever the message is, whatever the consciousness of the person speaking is, the words are simply a vehicle. So imagine a person coming to you by Uber. So what's the role of the Uber? Simply to transport that person from his place to your place. That's it. Right? Many Ubers come and stop at your door and go away. You don't care. Now the person who's coming, he's the one who'll knock on your door and come inside. That person is represented by the consciousness of the speaker. This is very important to understand. What's entering your heart is the consciousness of the speaker. It's like when you're honoring prasadam, what's entering your heart is the consciousness of the cook. consciousness of the pujari who offered it, consciousness of the person who sponsored it or bought the grocery or whatever, cut the vegetables. The consciousness of all those people combined that make the consciousness of the bhoga, prasada. Similarly, when you hear a message, what really touches your heart is the consciousness of the person speaking those words. And this is why Srila Prabhupada quotes from the scriptures that we should not hear from a person who's not a devotee. We should hear only from pure devotee. Why? Because the consciousness of the speaker that touches your heart, and only a pure consciousness entering your heart will transform your heart. Therefore, only the person with pure consciousness has the power to transform your heart. Otherwise, you can listen to all the lectures, you can hear all the kirtans you want, but the transformation doesn't happen. These days, especially, with the young people coming in the temple, everything has become, R&B and what would you call it? I forget the name now. This particular type of beat that they do on, and they make it all sound like mundane songs. We had a very famous singer come a few months ago to Toronto Temple, and he was chanting Lord Nrsimha's mantra, but in a way that everybody would dance. So people are busy dancing, not in ecstasy, but they're enjoying the beat. And the whole tune is all, like in India, they say, twisted this way, twisted that way, and it's all about sense gratification. So when you're singing for your sense gratification, for your honor, for your fame, for your praise, then there's no Lord Nrsimha there. And that kind of singing can never transform the heart of anybody. And Prabhupada actually goes further. He says the scriptures quote, hearing from a non-devotee the message of Krishna, about Krishna, is like drinking milk that's been touched by the lips of a serpent. So that milk, which is normally very healthy food, becomes a poison. So here, the hearts of these hardcore Mayavadis have been transformed by the words and the presence of Lord Chaitanya. So they're saying, you have influenced our minds, which means now we're thinking, we are right or you are right. And we feel greatly satisfied. We're not agitated. Normally, if somebody speaks against what you believe in, you'll feel agitated, right? But they're saying, no, we feel very satisfied. That is an art. That is a talent. In the mundane world, they say, what's the definition of a diplomat? A diplomat is a person who can tell you to go to hell in such a way that you want to know the way to get there. Instead of getting upset. So similarly, a devotee, especially Lord Chaitanya in the form of a devotee, speaks in such a wonderful way that instead of being agitated, all these hardcore Mayavadis want to know more. Please tell us your version, we want to hear it. And right now, we're feeling very satisfied by what you have said. This is amazing. And then Prabhupada quotes a wonderful bhajan written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wrote a book called Prarthana. It's all about surrendering. And this particular bhajan talks about everything that's favorable to the performance of devotional service. If you don't know this bhajan, please learn it. And by the way, we're supposed to sing this every Ekadashi day. If you're not doing that, please get this bhajan and sing it Aarti time or whatever time you want. Sing this bhajan. Anyway, what this is saying is that Shuddha Bhagat, the pure devotees, just from the lotus feet of a pure devotee, is very favorable to becoming a devotee yourself. It's very anukul, it's very favorable. Other words, if you don't have the mercy of a pure devotee, you cannot become a devotee. That's how powerful it is. So here Prabhupada is basically hinting that now the mercy of Lord Chaitanya has been received by these Mayavadis. Watch for the transformation of their heart. And the indication comes simply by their saying, we feel very satisfied, not agitated by your words. And our minds are already transformed. And of course, it's only by good fortune that you get to meet a pure devotee. So Prabhupada is saying they were fortunate enough to meet Supreme Lord in the form of a devotee. And they knew also that a perfectly advanced spiritualist never says anything false. Now you have heard that one of the 26 qualities of a pure devotee is called Mauni, is silent. Silent doesn't mean he's got cloth in his mouth. He does talk, but he only talks about Krishna. He's silent about anything that's not related to Krishna. Lord Chaitanya actually said in one place, he says, Gram Katha na kahibe. Gram Katha means mundane conversation. You will not do mundane conversation. That was one of the instructions Lord Chaitanya has left. Gram Katha na kahibe, phalo na khaibe, bhalo na paribe. Don't wear fancy clothes to the temple. Don't eat opulent food. Don't do mundane conversation. These are his instructions. I mean, we can talk, there's a whole lecture by itself, but my point is that we have to be careful about who we talk to. And one of the qualities of pure devotee is that he or she is not interested in any conversation other than that about Krishna. So knowing that, Mayavadis say, we know that you will not say anything unreasonable or false, because everything you say about Krishna is reasonable and true. Okay? And then highly realized person never says anything that has no meaning. That's the other thing. Sometimes, has anybody heard the expression, bahut kaha thoda samajhna? Which means, sorry, thoda kaha bahut samajhna. Which means I've said only a few words, but, get the bigger meaning. That's an expression in Hindi. But most people are opposite of that. Bahut kaha thoda samajhna. You speak for 2 hours. At the end of it, you say, what did they say? Then nothing made sense. So they're saying, but not with you, Lord Chaitanya. Whatever you said is very meaningful. Okay. And the Prabhupada says, on the other hand, Mayavadi philosophy, what they say has no meaning. They say they're God. That has no meaning. That's nonsense. But Mahaprabhu never utters such nonsense. And Mayavadi sannyasis were convinced about his personality, and therefore they wanted to hear the purport of the Vedanta philosophy from him. These are the people who have insisted all their life it's only one interpretation of Vedanta, and that is Sharirik Bhashya by Shankaracharya. Now they say, no, Lord Chaitanya, you tell us. That's the transformation they've gone through. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, 106. Prabhu kahe Vedanta Sutra Ishwara Vachan Vyas Rupe Kailajaha Shri Narayan. The Lord said, Vedanta philosophy consists of words spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan in the form of Vyasadeva. So last week we talked about whose Vyasadeva is literally incarnation of Krishna. Therefore, non-different from Krishna. So whatever he speaks, whatever he writes, coming directly from Krishna. No filters. Okay? Krishna played the flute to Tene Brahma Hridaka Adikavaye to Lord Brahma. Brahma interpreted that and gave it to whom?
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni. And Narad Muni gave it to
Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva. So no filtering. No filtering, as it is. Message given. So let's talk about that. Okay, let's do the purport. Who wants to read the first paragraph?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay. The Vedanta Sutra, which consists of aphorisms revealing the method of understanding Vedic knowledge, is the concise form of all Vedic knowledge. It begins with the word Atat Brahma Jidnyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. The human form of life is specially meant for this purpose, and therefore the Vedanta Sutra very concisely explains the human mission. This is confirmed by the words of Vayu and Skanda Puranas, which define the sutra as follows: Alpa Alpa Alpakasharam Sandigi.
Don't worry about it, just read the meaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A sutra is a compilation of aphorism that expresses the essence of all knowledge in a minimum of words. It must be universally applicable and faultless in its linguistic presentation. Anyone familiar with such a sutras must be aware of the Vedanta Sutra, which is well known among scholars by the following additional names: Brahma Sutra, Shariraka, Vyasa Sutra, Badarayana Sutra, Uttar Mimamsa, and Vedanta Darshana.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So actually, we will not read the rest of the purport. We just stop here because it's information that very hard to understand and internalize. So if you're interested, you can read it, but I know I will not be able to explain and you will not remember the details. I know that. So if you're interested, you can read later outside of this class. So basically here, the defining what is Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta Sutra is an aphorism. Does anybody know what aphorism means? So aphorism is a concise statement on an observation that is generally speaking true. Right? So it's just basically a concise way of saying something. That's a vast knowledge. You put them in very concise form in different shlokas or whatever. And that's your sutra. Now, and this is another meaning of the word sutra. Anybody knows what that is in Hindi or Sanskrit?
Thread?
Sorry, Pallavi Mataji?
Is it a thread?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So basically that means now you're basically reading something in a thread. Let's go sequentially, but it's going very concisely. It's not raita nahi phailaya hua hai. It's not everybody going everywhere. It's in a straight line, very concise, and very, very a statement of general truths. That is, so about the Vedas, the end of the Vedas are in the Sutra. So 400,000 verses of Vedas explained in a few verses of Vedanta Sutra. So just understand that part. Okay, and some examples are given like Asato Brahma Jigyasa. That's the first verse in Vedanta Sutra. And you can see it's very precise. You can give class on those 3 words for a whole month. It is so broad, but said in, and again, in very brief, the meaning is now that you have got human birth, you should inquire about spiritual. That's it. But you can go on and on explaining this. And that's the point about Vedanta Sutra. Written by Vyasadeva, explained by, Shukadeva Goswami, and of course, incorrectly explained by Lord Shiva in the form of Chaitanya. Okay, we'll skip the rest of it. Again, as I said, if you're interested, you can read this later on. We're going to 107. Brahma Pramada Vripalipsa Karnopachara Ishvara Vakyanahi Dosh Ei Sava. The material defects of mistakes, illusion, cheating, and sensory inefficiency do not exist in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we talk about the 4 defects of every human being, right? Imperfect senses, makes mistake, tendency to make mistakes, tendency to cheat, and under illusion. So that's what. Sorry?
Yes, sorry, Prabhu, I was repeating, sorry.
Okay, sure. So those are the 4. Now let's talk about purport, then further explanation of that. Who wants to read it?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Ruchira Mataji.
A mistake is the acceptance of an object to be different than what it is, or the acceptance of a false knowledge. For example, one may see a rope in the dark and think it to be a serpent, or one may see a glittering oyster shell and think it to be gold. These are mistakes. Similarly, an illusion is a misunderstanding which arises from inattention while hearing, and cheating is the transmission of such defective knowledge to others. Materialistic scientists and philosophers generally use such words as maybe and perhaps because they do not have the actual knowledge of complete facts. Therefore, their instructing others is an example of cheating. The final defect of the materialistic person is his inefficient senses. Although our eyes, for example, have the power to see, they cannot see that which is situated at a distance, nor can they see the eyelid, which is the object nearer to the eye. To our untrained eyes, the sun appears to be just like a plate, and to the eyes of one who is suffering from jaundice, everything appears to be yellow. Therefore, we cannot rely on the knowledge acquired through such imperfect eyes. The ears are equally imperfect. We cannot hear a sound vibrated a long distance away unless we put a telephone to our ear. Similarly, if we analyze all our senses in this way, we will find them all to be imperfect. Therefore, it is useless to acquire knowledge through the senses. The Vedic process is to hear from authority. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsayo viduha. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. We have to hear not from a telephone but from an authorized person, for it is he who has real knowledge.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So again, simply the point is being made that whatever you hear from an ordinary person is full of these 4 defects and therefore not reliable information. We are ourselves not very reliable when it comes to pratyaksha pramana, which means learning through our senses. 2 people can hear the same thing and have different interpretation. 2 people can see the same accident and have different versions, so on and so forth. So many examples. Prabhupada is giving many examples here. Therefore, pratyaksha pramana, or anything we learn from our senses, is not reliable information. So the only person that's reliable is the one with none of these 4 defects. And that person is Lord Krishna, or that pure devotee who's repeating the message of Krishna. So here they're admitting that you are in that category, being a pure devotee, that none of your words are suffering from any of these 4 defects of a human being. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Upanishad Sahitya Sutra kahe se tattva मुख्य वृत्ति सही अर्थ परम Mahatva. The absolute truth is described in the Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, but one must understand the verses as they are. That is the supreme glory in understanding. So here, the point is being made, do not twist the meaning. You know, my mother used to say, you want to hold your nose, hold it directly. Why do you have to go around your ears and try to hold your nose? And Mayavadis do that. They're giving what's called paroksh meaning, the indirect meaning. They twisted it. Whereas Srila Prabhupada came and said, no, Bhagavad Gita as it is, as Krishna meant to say. So that's the difference. So we'll read the first paragraph. We will not bother reading the rest of the purport because this has the names of 8 Upanishads. Again, you want to memorize them, you can do that later. So let's read this purport, the first paragraph.
Can I read it, Prabhuji?
Go ahead.
But it has become fashionable since the time of Shankaracharya to explain everything regarding the Shastras in an indirect way. Scholars take pride in explaining everything in their own way, and they declare that one can understanding the Vedic scriptures in any way he likes. This any way you like method is foolishness and it is created havoc in the Vedic culture. One cannot accept scientific knowledge in his own whimsical way. In the sense of mathematics, for example, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and one cannot make it equal 3 or 5. Yet, although it is not possible to alter real knowledge, people have taken to the fashion of understanding Vedic knowledge in any way they like. It is for this reason that we presented Bhagavad Gita as it is. We do not create meanings by concoction. Sometimes commentators say that the word Kurukshetra in the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita refers to one's body, but we do not accept this. We understand that Kurukshetra is a place that still exists, and according to the Vedic version, it is Dharmakshetra, or a place of pilgrimage. People still go there to perform Vedic sacrifices. Foolish commentators, however, say that Kurukshetra means the body that has Pancha Pandavas refer to the 5 senses. In this way, they distort the meaning and people are misled. Here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed that all Vedic literature, including the Upanishad, Brahma Sutra, and others, whether Shruti, Samriti, or Nyaya, must be understood according to the original statement. To describe the direct meaning of the Vedic literature is glorious, but to describe them in one's own way, using imperfect senses and imperfect knowledge, is a disastrous blunder. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fully deprecated the attempt to describe the Vedas in this way. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, so some people think that it is their shastric ability that they can explain something that's simple in a very difficult way. So their criteria is, if most people don't understand what I said, that means I know much more than they do. And they forget that the object of their class should be that people understand the message. But they're not interested in that. They're interested in impressing them with their knowledge. And some of these people give an indirect meaning, and wonderful example has been given in this purport. This is true situation. Somebody did give a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and it started by the fact that Kurukshetra is not a place, actually is your body. And there was no such thing as 5 Pandavas. That's the 5 senses. There's no such thing as Krishna, the soul. And the whole Bhagavad Gita commentary is based on that. So this is like we're doing a math problem and you start with the premise 2 plus 2 equals 5. Any conclusion you come to will be wrong. Right? Everybody understands what I'm saying?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So if your basic premise is wrong, it's not going to be right conclusion. And that's what happens when people try to give the indirect meaning or twist the meaning or make it more complicated, because they get confused in their own glory. So Prabhupada is saying that therefore the best way to give the direct meaning, and that's the point that Lord Chaitanya is making here. And he makes the same point with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when he listens to him for 7 days without talking. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asks, did you understand anything? And he says, I'm sorry, yeah, you've been listening. Did you understand anything? And he said, I've been listening, yes, but I don't understand a thing you're saying because you're giving wrong interpretation. You're making indirect and convoluted interpretation of everything instead of giving direct meaning. So Vedanta Sutra, real interpretation is in the direct meaning of it. Okay? And then it goes on to like the 108 Upanishads. If you're really interested, by all means, read it, memorize it, let me know next week. Okay. Text 109. Any questions? Okay. गौण व्यक्ति देवद भाष्य करीला आचार्य ताहार Shravane. I'm sorry, I don't have enough light here. I have to fix this thing. Neva Hoy Sarvakai. Translation. Sripad Shakracharya has described all the Vedic literatures in terms of indirect meanings. One who hears such explanation is ruined. And we'll talk about that, how that happens, but basically Lord Chaitanya is saying is that whatever Lord Sripad Shakracharya has described is indirect interpretation. And therefore, anybody who listens to that is ruined. And we'll talk later, even advanced devotees, their life is ruined when they pay attention to this. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, text 110. Tahar nahik dosh Ishwar agya paya गौण अर्थ करिल मुख्य अर्थ अच्छा दिया. Translation. Shankaracharya is not at fault, for it is under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he has covered the real purpose of the Vedas. So now, before you start thinking, how Shankaracharya, who is Lord Shiva, who is Vaishnavanam Jathashambhu, topmost devotee of Lord Krishna, can do something like this? So here is being answered. He had given the order by Lord Vishnu to go and do it. So we'll see in more detail. Okay, let's do the purport, first paragraph. Somebody, please.
I can do it, Prabhu.
Please go ahead, Rishabh.
The Vedic literature is to be considered a source of real knowledge, but if one does not take it as it is, one will be misled. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is an important Vedic literature that has been taught for many years, but because it was commented upon by unscrupulous rascals, people people derived no benefit from it, and no one came to the conclusion of Krishna consciousness. Since the purport of the Bhagavad Gita is now being presented as it is, however, within 4 or 5 short years, thousands of people all over the world have become Krishna conscious. That is the difference between direct and indirect explanations of the Vedic literature. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mukha vrite se artha prarma mahatattva. To teach the Vedic literature according to its direct meaning without false commentary is glorious. Unfortunately, Sri Shankaracharya, by the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead, compromised between atheism and theism in order to cheat the atheists and bring them to theism. And to do so, he gave up the direct method of Vedic knowledge and tried to present the meaning which is indirect. It is with this purpose that he wrote the Sarirakya Bhasa commentary on the Vedanta Sutra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Prabhupada is making a wonderful point. When you hide the real meaning and you give an indirect explanation, it does not transform the hearts of the people. So many people wrote many different commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and did not make many devotees, if any devotees. When the author of the commentary is not Krishna conscious, how can he expect the readers to become Krishna conscious? So there's at least 15, 20 versions that I'm aware of Bhagavad Gita and the purports. None of them made a single devotee. Prabhupada came along, and in a few years, he met thousands of devotees. And has continued even after he left this planet. Did you know that we have now distributed 550 million copies of Bhagavad Gita around the world in 75 different languages? And very soon it'll be 1 billion. And even if only 1% of 550 million people are converted or become Krishna conscious, that's 55,000 people. Just 1%. Who has had that kind of success? You go to any part of the world, now you hear Hare Krishna Mahamantra. People come from all over the world to Vrindavan, and you should hear the classes on Bhagavad Gita. I've met Russian people, I met Czech people, I met Australians, New Zealanders, of course, Americans and Canadians, Europeans. Amazing, amazing devotees. All Prabhupada is saying because I gave the direct meaning. And of course, Prabhupada is pure devotee, so he has the power to transform the hearts. But that conversion, the transformation is happening even after he's left the body, left this planet. This message is still going because he gave the direct meaning. Now, before we get all, condescending about Shankaracharya, let us understand why he did what he did. So we already heard that Lord Shiva got direct order from Lord Vishnu to do this. But what was the order and why? So basically, this is the time when Buddhism was prospering. And why did Lord Buddha come? Anybody knows? And what was his message?
To stop animal
Peace and
killing.
non-violence.
Sorry.
Okay, so I heard Devjani say to stop the violence, right?
Yes.
Okay. Shalini Mataji, you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying to stop animal killing. That
Yes.
was in the Vedas under the guise of yagyas. People were killing animals.
So what did Buddha do?
He preached ahimsa.
Yes, but what else did he do?
He actually
rejected the Vedas.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
He basically stopped people from believing in the Vedas. They said, don't read the Vedas. And that was Buddhism. Now, Lord Vishnu said, wait a minute, that's not going to make anybody Krishna conscious. And just by stopping the killing of the animals, nobody's going to come to Goloka Vrindavan. Nobody's going to Vaikuntha. Because your heart is not transformed. So therefore, Lord Vishnu said to Lord Shiva, you now go and reestablish the authority of the Vedas. But if you go tell the people the real meaning of the Vedas, it's too much of a jump for them. It's like, you are running and suddenly you come to a point where there's a cliff and there's a valley and then it starts again, but after 20 feet. That's too much of a jump for an ordinary person. You can jump maybe 4 feet, 5 feet. If you're real Olympic style, you can jump 8 feet, 19 feet if you do triple jump. But that's about it. So therefore, you need something like a bridge that gives you a place to land without making it impossible. So therefore, Lord Shiva, as Shankaracharya, established the authorities of the Vedas, but to do that without making it a big jump, he said, but the God has no form. So you don't worry about it. And then everybody's God. So now it's making people from non-violent into God. A God that has no form, but everybody's God. So that was the reason why Lord Shiva, the topmost devotee, topmost Vaishnava, did what he did. It was in direct orders of the Lord. That's what devotees do. Whatever Lord you say, Karishye Vachanam Tava, as Arjun said, I'll do whatever you instruct me. Krishna instructed Arjun to kill his grandfather. Krishna instructed Arjun to kill Karna, who was trying to extract his chariot. And Arjun said, okay. That's a real disciple. So Lord Shiva said, my Lord, you are my Lord. Whatever you say, I will do. However, a Vaishnava is always a Vaishnava. So while he did that, what else did he do? He wrote Jagannath Ashtakam. He wrote Radha Kripa Kataksh Bhajanam. Anybody has heard that?
You're referring to Bhaja Govindam Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
And of course, I'm coming to that. An
Yes.
amazing glorification of Radharani.
Yes.
Yes.
And then, of course, as you said, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Murmate. You're a fool if you don't. So because he's devotee, he can't help it. So he's saying, my Lord, I've done what you asked me to do, but don't take my intrinsic nature away. I'm sorry. I can't help it but glorify you. So he did that also. Now his disciples decided to ignore all that and just go with the impersonalism philosophy. Okay. All right. Any questions on that?
Can I ask a question, Prabhu?
Sure, go ahead.
So the Lord Vishnu has to go in the two directional. First, he said to Buddha that stop believing in Vedas, and then to Shankaracharya that okay, tell the wrong information. Why at first he didn't tell the Buddha that do the right thing, believe in the right way?
So first of all, Lord Buddha is the incarnation of the Lord also. So it's Lord Vishnu himself coming as Buddha. So there's no communication. He knows. But the reason is the need of the time. So Lord is very smart. He says, in this time, what would people listen to? What message would people listen to? What activities will they agree to do? And he does the needful to make them do this. So at that time, there was so much animal killing going on. He said, if I just tell them to stop it, they won't stop. I have to give them something. So hence the denial of the authority of the Vedas. A very well thought out strategy. And then he said, okay, it's too long, too far. I've changed them. But again, need of the time is that I can only make them jump so high. So give them something in between. That's what it says here, got the between atheism and theism. So now it's theism. Mayavadi is not atheistic. They believe there's God, but they just don't believe he has a form. So like again, it's a shorter jump. And then of course he comes as Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya. But even there, he's looking at the need of the time. Need of the time. For example, in the age of Kali, people will not perform big yagyas. People will not meditate for 50,000 years. Right? People will not do elaborate deity worship. You guys are lazy, you are dull-headed, you're unfortunate, you disturb and create disturbance to everybody else, you just chant. So that became the message in Kali Yuga, came directly from the Lord. Right? Need of the time. Okay, is that making sense?
So now the Buddhist, they do not believe in any Vedas.
Buddhists don't.
Yeah, because it was the message.
That's the philosophy they've been following.
But then what do they read? What are their scriptures?
The Sharirik Bhashya, the commentary on Vedanta Sutra by Shankaracharya.
Oh.
That's what we're talking about, right?
So they believe also the Shankaracharya's commentary.
No, they are the followers of Shankaracharya.
Buddhist?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were talking about Mayavadis. I'm sorry.
No, Buddhist.
The Buddhists, I don't. They have some. Buddha has written some. What do they call them? This term they use, and there's 10 empowered entities who are disciples of Buddha, and they have different names. And in the final analysis, their aim is to achieve nirvana, which is basically the end of their material activities. So they meditate. That's mostly what they do. But they read the messages left by Lord Buddha and elaborated by his 10 disciples. So actually, you're in Vancouver, right? There's a Buddhist
temple. You
should go there. You can get all this information you're asking for. And the statue of these 10 disciples, they're all there.
Okay. All right, Prabhu.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome.
Prabhuji?
Devdani, go ahead.
I was just listening, like going through one of the documentary for this Mahakumbh recently. So I got to know that Sri Adi Shankaracharya has such a valuable like contribution that he was the one who created all the 13 or 11 akhadas, and main purpose of this was like they preserved all the literature and Vedas and this knowledge uh, to like they really protected, because otherwise it would have been lost.
Yeah, that's
But
possible. Yeah, I believe that.
so but mainly like his principles were somewhat different, because he was trying to at least bring those people in good path who were somewhere in between, at
Sure.
least if like not by being very spiritual or very like in a rule or this thing, but at least some philosophy given to them by which they can at least be in
Right.
some good path.
ये न कहने प्रकार है, somehow or the other, they want to attract them.
Yes,
Somehow, at least don't be atheistic.
yes.
Yeah, that's very true. Good point.
And
Okay.
Prabhu, that Jain is also one of the branches of what Hindus. I don't know what they believe in.
Mahavir, I don't know a lot about them, but they're also atheistic. They don't believe in God and all. They believe in Mahavir. Again, I don't know much about them, so I don't want to say too much.
Mm.
But they are very strict in that no
Right.
eating and nothing that grows under the ground, things like that. So they're very pious people.
Mm.
But
No.
I don't know a lot about them.
Prabhu, they say they are not Hindus. They
Okay, fine, whatever. Okay, next paragraph.
So Prabhuji,
हाँ Pallavi Mataji. Go ahead.
yeah. So regarding Buddhism, so the main purpose Lord Buddha came for non-violence, correct?
What?
For main reason Lord Buddha came was for non-violence also,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Stop the animal sacrifice. But why do the Buddhists now, like, I have a neighbor who they even take bogas, which is not non-veg, to their temples.
Sorry, say again?
They even take the bogas, or for the priests, they serve non-vegetarian.
Yeah, I know. Even the Dalai Lama admitted that he eats meat. So let's not go there, Mother. It's not totally out of context here. And to be honest with you, I'm not an authority on other religions, so I don't want to make a comment that may be incorrect. But your statement is right, that a lot of Buddhists now, despite believing in non-violence, eat meat, including the head, Dalai Lama.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next paragraph.
I can read, Prabhu.
Please go ahead.
One should not therefore attribute very much importance to the Sariraka Bhasya. In order to understand Vedanta philosophy, one must study Srimad Bhagavatam, which begins with the words Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadi Asya Yato Anyavad Taratas Chateshva Abhinaswarat. I offer my obeisances unto Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, who is the supreme, all-pervading personality of Godhead. I meditate upon him, the transcendent reality, who is the primeval cause of all causes, from whom all manifested universes arise, in whom they dwell, and by whom they are destroyed. I meditate upon that eternally effulgent Lord, who is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and yet is fully independent. Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Srimad Bhagavatam is the real commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Unfortunately, if one is attracted to Sri Shankaracharya's commentary, Sariraka Bhasya, his spiritual life is doomed. Hare Krishna.
So, this is the first verse of the first canto, first chapter of the first canto. That's how the Bhagavatam starts. And right off the bat, the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Right off the bat, they recognize, accept the authority of the Lord, and then they describe the Lord. He is the origin, how he's the reality, who's the cause of all causes, he's manifesting everything. Like he's doing everything. So recognizing his potencies right off the bat. And then, of course, the second verse of the same chapter talks about how Bhagavatam is devoid of any cheating religion. And third verse says, Nigam kalpataror galitam phalam. It is the ripened fruit of the tree of the Vedas. So ripened fruit is very sweet. Then it says Shuk Mukhat. Now, for example, you take a mango tree, any mango that has been bit by a parrot becomes very sweet. So Shukadeva is parrot. So because coming from his mouth, it becomes like nectar. And appreciated by Rasika, those who understand the mellows of devotional service. So the point being made is, came directly from the Lord through the agency of Vyasadeva, who is an incarnation of the Lord. There's no cheating religion, it's pure devotional service. It is based on Vedanta because the essence of all the Vedas, in terms of as in ripened fruit, and it's coming from a very authorized personality by the name of Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami used to be the personal parrot of Lord Srimati Radharani, whose role was to convey the messages from Radharani to Krishna and Krishna back to Radha. And Radha used to feed pomegranate seeds by her own hands to Shukadeva Goswami, the Shukadeva. So it's no ordinary person who's narrating it, no ordinary person who read it, and no ordinary source, the Lord himself was coming from. So what can be wrong there? Okay, yes, last we were talking about different interpretations and the fact that the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is essentially the essence of Vedanta Sutra. It is Vedanta Sutra, just interpreted correctly and directly. Okay. All right, let's read the next paragraph.
Can I read, Prabhu?
Please go ahead, yeah.
One may argue that since Shankaracharya is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, how is it that he cheated people in this way? The answer is that he did so on the order of his master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in the Padma Purana in the words of Lord Shiva himself.
But you can move to the translation.
Okay. The Mayavada philosophy, the Lord Shiva informed his wife Parvati, is impious asat shastra. It is asat shastra?
Yes, yes. So
it is covered Buddhism. My dear Parvati, in Kali Yuga, I assume the form of a Brahmana and teach this imagined Mayavada philosophy. In order to cheat the atheists, I describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be without form and without qualities. Similarly, in explaining Vedanta, I describe the same Mayavada philosophy in order to mislead the entire population toward atheism by denying the personal form of the Lord. In the Shiva Purana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead told Lord Shiva, Dvaparadau yuge bhutva kalaya manushadishu स्वागमैः कल्पितैस्त्वं च janan mad vimukhan kuru. In Kali Yuga, mislead the people in general by propounding imaginary meanings for the Vedas to bewilder them. These are the descriptions of the Puranas.
Thank you. So, again, with the authority of the Puranas, Padma Purana specifically, excuse me, they are Prabhupada describing what Lord Shiva's actual feelings are as he's speaking to Mother Parvati. In answer to the question, why would Lord Shiva cheat people? So explaining that I come as in the form of a Brahmin, as Shankaracharya, and I describe the personality of Godhead to be without form and without quality. Nirakar, Nirgun. Those are two terms we hear. But that means no material qualities, no material form. But other people take that as no form, no qualities. Nirakar, Nirgun. And he's saying I'm basically cheating them because I want them to move them towards atheism by denying the personal form of the Lord. So Nirgun Nirakar, you basically become atheist. Right? It's just a power. There's no form, nothing, no person. And Kali Yuga mislead the people in general by propounding imaginary meanings. So it's not just indirect, he's saying imaginary meanings, which is what you have to do when you go indirect. Okay, and again, these are the authority of the Puranas. It's not somebody making it up. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph.
I can read, Prabhu.
Please go ahead.
Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that Mukhya Vritti, the direct meaning, is Abhidha Vritti, or the meaning that one can understand immediately from the statements of dictionaries, whereas Gauna Vritti, the indirect meaning, is a meaning that one imagines without consulting the dictionary. For example, one politician has said that Kurukshetra refers to the body, but in the dictionary there is no such definition. Therefore, this imaginary meaning is Gauna Vritti, whereas the direct meaning found in the dictionary is Mukhya Vritti or Abhidha Vritti. This is the distinction between the two. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that one understand the Vedic literature in terms of Abhira Vritti, and the Gauna Vritti he rejects. Sometimes, however, as a matter of necessity, the Vedic literature is described in terms of the Lakshana Vritti or Gauna Vritti, but one should not accept such explanation as permanent truth.
Thank you. So, same point is being made again. There is a direct meaning, which is mukh. Mukhya also means main. Here he started as direct. And vritti means meaning. And what do you call it? The gone means secondary or not important. So gona vritti and mukhya vritti. Another word they're using is abhidha vritti, which means mukhya or direct meaning. Okay, so by definition, the indirect meaning will have to be imagined. And again, he gives the same example of somebody saying Kurukshetra is not Kurukshetra, but the body. But it's not the real meaning. I mean, which dictionary did you get that meaning from? Literally translated, what does Kurukshetra mean? What's the literal meaning of Kurukshetra?
I think the Kuru dynasty
Right.
and the
place
Kshetra is the
owned
land.
by Kuru dynasty. That's the direct meaning. And in Bhagavad Gita, very first verse starts with that word. But then there's a quality described to it. Next words describe the quality of Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra, actually, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm saying the wrong way. Second word is Kurukshetra. First word is Dharmakshetra, defining the quality. Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. That's the place which is Dharmakshetra, the place of religion. That is where people go during solar eclipse to perform religious ceremonies, which includes getting rid of their sinful reactions. Okay, so it's a place of pilgrimage, originally owned by the Kurus. Why calling it, no, this is body? And that's a very good example of indirect meaning versus direct meaning or imaginary meaning. So Gaunvritti means also imaginary meaning. You just, somebody imagined that. Okay. So Vedic literature is described in terms of Lakshana Vritti or okay. So he has described the indirect meaning of the Vedas. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, let's go to the next paragraph.
Prabhu, I'll read.
Please go ahead, yeah.
The purpose of the discussions in the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra is to philosophically establish the personal feature of the absolute truth. The impersonalists, however, in order to establish their philosophy, accept these discussions in terms of lakshana vritti or indirect meaning. Thus, instead of being tattva, vad, or in search of the absolute truth, they become mayavad or illusioned by the material energy. When Sri Vishnu Swami, one of the four acharyas of the Vaishnava cult, presented his thesis on the subject matter of Shuddha Vad, immediately the Mayavadis took advantage of this philosophy and tried to establish their Advait Vad or Kevaladvait Vad. To defeat the Kevaladvait Vad, Sri Ramanujacharya presented his philosophy as Vishishtavad and Sri Madhavacharya presented his philosophy of Tattvavad, both of which are stumbling blocks of the Mayavadis because they defect. Prabhuji, can someone else can read
They
it?
defeat their philosophy.
Someone else can read it, Prabhu?
Sure, sure. Somebody continue, please.
Because they defeat their philosophy in scrupulous detail. Students of Vedic philosophy know very well how strongly Sri Ramanujacharya's Vishishtadvaitavad and Sri Madhavacharya's Tattvad contest the impersonal Mayavad philosophy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, accepted the direct meaning of the Vedanta philosophy and thus defeated the Mayavad philosophy immediately. He opined in this connection that anyone who follows the principles of Chariraka Bhasya is doomed. This is confirmed in the Padma Puran, where Lord Shiva tells Parvati,
just read the translation, don't worry about it.
My dear wife, hear my explanations of how I have spread ignorance through Mayavad philosophy. Simply by hearing it, even an advanced scholar will fall down. In this philosophy, which is certainly very, very inauspicious for people in general, I have misrepresented the real meaning of the Vedas and recommended that one give up all the activities in order to achieve freedom from karma. In this Mayavad philosophy, I have described that the Jivatma and Paramatma to be one and the same. How the Mayavad philosophy was condemned by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers is described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lila, 2nd chapter, verses 94 through 99, where Swarup Damodar Goswami says that anyone who is eager to understand the Mayavad philosophy must be considered insane. This especially applies to a Vaishnav who reads the Shariraka Bhasya and considers himself to be one with God. The Mayavad philosophers have presented their arguments in such attractive, flowery language that hearing Mayavad philosophy may sometimes change the mind of even a Mahabhagavat or very advanced devotee. An actual Vaishnav cannot tolerate any philosophy that claims God and the living being to be one and the same.
Yeah. So I'm sure you all understood what's saying. Any questions? I'm joking. This is probably the most complex part of whatever we read today. And I will not claim to be an expert on this matter, but I'll try to explain some of this. First of all, we know there are 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, right? What are they?
Sri Sampradaya, Kumar Sampradaya,
Rudra.
Rudra Sampradaya.
And the Gaudiya Sampradaya.
Gaudiya.
Brahma Sampradaya.
Madhva.
Yeah.
Okay. So Vedanta basically is a spiritual philosophy which explains the concept of Brahman, the Atma, and the universe. Right? Those are 3 concepts that Vedanta explains. And then different philosophies explain the relationship between these 3 elements. And some call them Advait, which means identical. Some call them Dvait, which means non-dual. Dual or different. And then there are different subparts to those. The point that Prabhupada is making in the purport is that these different leaders who were the proponents of various philosophies, they were so convincing that it made the Mayavadis very uncomfortable because it was directly opposing what they were saying. So let's start with what are the Mayavadis saying. So I'm sure you have heard the expression Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. You heard that?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, which means only the Brahman is real and the universe is unreal. And then they go on to say, universe is realized due to our ignorance. And they give the example of the rope and the snake. This is unreal, just like a dream. And then they say, once you get knowledge, there's no universe because it's false. And you become God. Which is the second point, which says there's no difference between soul and the God of Brahman. No difference in Atma and Brahman. And they said, those who think the individuality of the soul exists is also their ignorance. But once they attain Gyan, they merge and they become same as God or Brahman. Okay? That's, in short, that's their philosophy. Now it's saying Vishishta Advait, that was propounded by Ramanujacharya, Sri Sampradaya. He said that Brahman is supreme and is the Paramatma feature of all souls, including the world. In other words, Brahman is the soul or super soul of all living entities and the universe. You can think of living entities and the universe as the body of the Brahman. Does that make sense? Like your Paramatma and the body, same idea. Are you with me or did I lose you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Then they say, unlike Mayavadis, we are saying universe is not unreal, not Jagan Mithya. He says, because Brahman is pure and real, how can any transformation be unreal? Especially when Brahman is residing inside. Okay? So therefore, Vishnadvat says the Jiva and Brahman are different. That's Advait. Sorry. So that's Dvait. Dvait means they're different. The Brahman and the Jiva are different. But in a qualified way because they cannot exist without each other. As I said before, the Brahman is the soul, super soul of all the Jivatmas. Therefore, it cannot exist without the other, but they're different.
Sorry, who said this?
This is Ramanujacharya, Vishishtadvaita. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Then came Vishnu Swami, who is the Rudra Sampradaya. And Rudra Sampradaya basically has disappeared completely, but there's another branch of it called Pushti Marg, with the leader being Vallabhacharya. And they said the same thing, that Maya is not unreal, but is Shakti or energy of Brahman. And the universe appears because of the wish of the Brahman. And then you have the spiritual world and the material world. Material world is temporary, spiritual world is permanent. And then they say soul is not different from Brahman because it's part and parcel of it. This is like, think of the fire and the spark. So Brahman is fire and we are sparks. Okay? And they are the ones who emphasize the bhakti mark. Okay? So in short, that's your Vishnu. Then came the Dvait of Madhvacharya. He said that Brahman, the universe, and the soul, the living entities, jiva, are separate from each other. But the Brahman is the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. Okay, and then they said there are three types of living entity souls: Nityabadh, Mukta, and Nityamukta. And they said if you perform devotional service, you can get moksha, which is basically if you do bhakti. And then, of course, Lord Chaitanya came, and what was his philosophy? Achintya Bheda Bhed. The inconceivable oneness and difference between the soul and the Lord. One and same, simultaneously one and different rather. Okay. And the example of sun and sunshine is given. That qualitatively we are one, but quantitatively we are different. So that's basically the Achintya Bheda Bhed philosophy. And then there's another reference of Tattvavad, that's Madhvacharya. And he basically said the same thing. Vishnu is supreme, is above the three modes of material nature. And he's the creator, the sustainer, the destroyer, the doer. And he's the one who gives knowledge. He also is the one who gives agyan. It's very similar to what Krishna is saying, 15:15 Bhagavad Gita. And he's the one who entangles you through his maya. He's the one who gives you moksha. Right? He's the super soul of everything. And everybody has to obey him. So that's basically it. So you can see how all these philosophies were directly in contradiction to what Mayavadi is saying. That is, they're saying there's no difference between Jiva and Brahman. And that's what made this Mayavadi so uncomfortable. And then there's a very nice conversation here, towards the end of the paragraph. Lord Chaitanya is referring to Lila, 2nd chapter, verses 94 to 99, where Swarup Damodar Goswami says that anyone who's eager to understand the Mayavad philosophy must be considered insane. Now, so I looked it up, and basically there is a devotee by the name of Bhagwan Acharya, who was a wonderful devotee, close associate of Swarup Damodar. Everybody knows Swarup Damodar? Who's Swarup Damodar?
One of Lalita and Vishakha.
Yes, a very close associate of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
Right? And I think he was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So basically a spiritual uncle of Lord Chaitanya, but acting as his servant and very close associate. Anyway, so as you said, he was one of the Sakhis, so very, very close. So he's having a dialogue with Bhagwan Acharya, who's another wonderful devotee. But his brother, Bhagwan Acharya's brother, Gopal Acharya, is a Mayavadi. And he happens to come home. So Bhagwan Acharya says to Swarup Damodar, please meet my brother. So what this is saying here is that Swarup Damodar was not very happy to meet him. Like he knows he's a waste of time. He doesn't want to talk to him. But because he's a brother of Bhagwan Acharya, he meets him, but not happy to meet him. And he's saying basically again here, it especially applies to Vaishnava who reads the Sharirak Bhashya, considers themselves to be God. We don't want to be with them. They present their arguments in a very attractive, flowery language, and hearing that philosophy, even in Mahabharata, can become misled. So please, haath jod do, stay away from it. Okay? That's it. So we're going to stop here. Wait for any questions or comments.
Prabhuji, today's class is recorded?
Oh, yes, it's recorded.
Okay, good.
Why you want
Because
to blackmail me?
I want to go through again.
Okay.
The only statement I got is stay away from Mayavad by all means.
Yes, Prabhu. You got the gist of the whole class.
Prabhuji,
Haji.
in the temple, we learned from senior devotees that people who are not initiated shouldn't be cooking the bhoga, right?
Yeah.
We have noticed some of them are very devoted. They chant also the rounds, like the number of rounds. I'm guessing, so I don't ask everyone. Even then, they cannot do cooking, and why? If no, why? Because of the why I'm asking. Initially, you spoke about the consciousness, right? So, does it have to do with consciousness, or does it just because the rules? How does it go?
Yeah. Whose kitchen is it?
Who's what?
Whose kitchen is the temple kitchen?
Radharani's.
Yes. Now, who serves Radharani?
Krishna.
Okay, who else?
Sakhis.
Sakhis.
Sakhis and Manjuris. Are they connected to Radharani and Krishna?
They are Sakhis.
If they were not connected, will they be able to serve Radharani?
No.
She accept their help? And that is what initiation does to you. It connects you to Krishna and Radharani. You may be chanting all you want, but the connection is not there. Therefore, strictly speaking, unless your second initiation, not even first. So the amount of purity is there. The discipline is there. The mood is there. The consciousness is there. All those are required.
Mood is very important, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So this is a matter of convenience that people say, it's okay, first initiation will do. Oh no, it's okay, they're chanting 16 hours. Like there's no limit. I've seen people come in their street clothes, leather belt on. They try to come in their leather shoes also. Oh, I just want to cut the vegetables. I want to serve. No, sorry. It's a privileged place. It's not for anybody. It's a privileged place. Being a devotee is a privileged position. Not everybody gets to do that. You really want to serve? Take initiation. What's keeping you? And if there's some genuine reasons why at this time you cannot take initiation, but chanting 16 rounds and observing other rules, then serve some other some devotee in some other way. Why do you have to insist on going to the kitchen? Do it in your own kitchen. Right?
प्रभु जी शालिनी माता जी और गोपाल प्रभु जी ने इनिशिएशन तो नहीं ली हुई लेकिन श्रीमद् भगवत क्लास भी देते हैं
Okay, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to insist on that. If your authorities are allowing you to do that, then know that this is a special privilege given to you. I'm talking about people who fight and say, no, I have to do this. No, it's not your right. It's a privilege. So if you're given permission by the temple authorities, you're fine. But now it's not on you, it's on them. They're saying, we feel comfortable enough to give you the right to go and serve. That's fine. No issue. But don't come and fight, because I've seen the fight, and that's what I was reacting to. I've seen people fighting. No, it's my right. I'm coming here and doing it. No, not your right.
Then, Prabhu, for Mahabhoga, we are not allowed to cook or even cut up. But yeah, but other for other bhoga we do the cut up and all, but we don't cook. We still don't cook.
Again, that's a concession. So once again, what I'm saying is that if the temple authorities are allowing you to do that, this is upon them. You're okay to do it. Okay?
There is a lack of people also. I mean,
this is why it happens.
Yeah.
There's not enough people. So what's the choice? You keep Krishna hungry, or you take the next step and the next step and the next step. Right? So this is why it's not a straightforward answer. But I was just giving you the strict answer. That was expected. But the situation, circumstances, cause some differences, some changes, and you have to live with that. But my point simply is, unless your temple authorities are allowing you, don't fight. If they allow you to do it, you're fine. You're safe.
प्रभु जी फिर तो वहाँ कोई इतने डिवोटी नहीं होते जो
कह रहे हैं जो टेंपल की अथॉरिटी कहते हैं वैसे कर सकते हो प्रभु जी ने कह दिया
ठीक है
Even we can sew the Radharani's and Krishna's clothes.
I'm sorry, say again?
Even we can sew the clothes they wear.
You can do whatever you want. That's not the point. Right? You're talking about what's the strict answer and what's the adjusted answer. And they're two different things. It's like, for example, I'll give you another example. Many years ago, I got a letter from some, what do you call it? Some group. They were members of LGBTQ. And they said, we studied in Bhagavad Gita that only a man and a woman can get married. So what is your view about the LGBTQ group? And my answer was the strict interpretation is that yes, only man and woman. But you have to adjust for time, space, and circumstance. Time, place, and circumstance. And we have adjusted. Some of the very prominent members of our organization are members of that group. And at that time, even one of the temple council members was a member of that group. So I said, yeah, we have adjusted and we accept it. But if you're asking for a strict interpretation, that's the answer. It's only man and woman. And that's what I'm saying here also. If we don't have enough people, if you don't have enough initiated people or whatever, and your temple authorities ask you to do it, then you're fine. But that's not your question.
प्रभु जी हम पहले उनसे पूछ लेते हैं आप लहसुन प्याज या मीट तो नहीं खाते हो, कहते हैं नहीं खाते, तो हमको हमने सब्जी वगैरह काटनी ऐसा काम दे देते हैं, वो ठीक है?
You're not the authority, Mataji, sorry. You have to ask them to go to a temple council member and get permission.
उन्होंने जे तो परमिशन दी हुई है, सब्जियां कटवा सकते हैं.
Sorry, Mataji? Anyway, this topic not for this class. I'm going to stop
Okay.
anyway.
Okay.